Greetings and peace and love, everybody. My name is Ram Hotep, and I'm broadcasting on behalf of the number 13, ScienceAstrology.com. I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for watching. On this particular episode, I'm going to cover the astrological sign of Gemini. It's been a long time coming. I'm going to cover the astrological sign of Gemini. Now, according to the 13 signs astrology Zodiac, the astrological sign of Gemini would start on June the 22nd, and it goes up until July the 21st. So the first thing I want to kind of do here on this video is that I want to kind of give a background about 13 signs astrology and kind of give, I guess, just somewhat of a explanation as to why I use the 13 sign system. Many people that watch my videos already know, but then I get a lot of new subscribers every day. We're getting, like new subscribers. We're always getting new people. So I want to take some time here on this video to kind of just break down the kind of difference between the different zodiacs. Now, when you study astrology, a lot of people don't know this because astrology isn't something that's really taught. You have different zodiacs. You have mainly the tropical zodiac, and then you have what's called the sidereal zodiac. Now, in 13 signs astrology, we use basically a version of the sidereal zodiac, and let me explain to you why we do this. Now, when you look at the zodiac can be divided up into many ways. The zodiac is essentially just a circle that measures approximately 15 degrees out in space. So it's a 15-degree circle that the planets travel in, kind of like a circuit or whatever. So essentially, really what a zodiac is, like, there's really no right or wrong zodiac. I mean, I definitely want to break that down here. There's no right or wrong zodiac because of the fact that when you deal with astrology, you're dealing with energy. Now, there is, of course, energy that's more potent than others. So, say for instance, let me give you a really good example. You have the concept of water. Now, water is what it is. But then there's kind of like good water, and then there's water that's not really so good for the system. There's water that's warm water that's good, when you're taking a bath and stuff like that. But then you have water that's cold, and a lot of people like to drink cold water when they're dehydrated because it cools the body down. But essentially, it's all essentially just water. It's just different degrees and how you're using this water, what you're using this water for. So that's kind of how it is when you want to get into understanding why there's different zodiacs in astrology. So what the Western zodiac is essentially, it's a zodiac that when it first was originated, it was never originated to do personal astrology readings with. And this is what people fail to realize. When this particular zodiac was drawn up, and it came out the mystery schools, and this is why a lot of people don't really know a lot of this information about astrology and where it came from. And it's kind of like a really mysterious science because it was given to people in the public from the mystery schools and the priests, and they would decide, okay, we're going to reveal a little bit of information to these people about astrology and give it to the public, because astrology is the best kept secret. All your religious priests, all of your judges, all of your lawyers, a lot of your doctors, all of these people study astrology in some form or fashion. They have to study astrology because when you start talking about the Hippocratic Oath and Hippocrates and all of them, they were astrologers. They knew astrology in depth, and they knew that certain planets, when they went through certain constellations, can cause you to have problems in certain parts of your body during certain times of year or whatever. So they got into understanding the planets more so from a medical aspect before it really got into like interpretation and really interpreting a person's character. So astrology has been a science that's been revealed to the people and released to the people in degrees by the priests. When they decide they're ready to release some more information about astrology, then they put out some more information. And that's how it usually is. So the knowledge, the full complete body of knowledge of astrology can really only be gained unless you go through. Now they have the modern day astrological associations, and they have different occult orders that study astrology and things of that nature. But if you really want to get a lot of deep knowledge on astrology right now, the only way to really do it really is to kind of go on like a self fact finding mission where you kind of like study all the different aspects of astrology and you kind of put it together, and then it's going to make sense to you. See, if you get you a book on Western astrology and you study Western astrology, you're going to be confused, because then you're going to go get another book and on sidereal astrology, and you're not really going to know the difference because they don't really explain the difference. So what I'm explaining to you here is that the sidereal zodiac is a different type of way of using that same circle, which is the ecliptic that I told you about, that the planets travel through. It's a different way of dividing it up, and it's a different way of breaking it down. So that's the Western zodiac. It's called tropical, and it's meant for measuring seasons, for farming and things of that nature. It was meant to really more so measure time. But as far as getting into the actual constellations and where the actual bodies are and the planets are, like as far as where these constellations were started in, Western astrology does not do a good job in that particular department. Anybody that studies Vedic astrology, which is taught by the Hindus, or Egyptian astrology, anybody that studies those versions of astrology are going to tell you that the sidereal zodiac is a lot more accurate, and it's actually been used a lot longer when it comes to dealing with personal astrology and personal zodiacs. Because the Vedic system, what they did, they were some of the original people that really got into doing horoscopes for people on a personal level. Now, you had to have a lot of money. The Egyptians did it too, but of course you had to be in the mystery schools and have a lot of money and a lot of connections, but you could get a personal chart. But the personal chart, the sidereal zodiac, was always that particular zodiac that was used for that. So let me explain to you what the sidereal zodiac is. Now, the sidereal zodiac is different from the Western zodiac, or the tropical zodiac, excuse me, which is the Western zodiac that they use in Western astrology. That's the famous one that you all know. You guys know about the Western zodiac. That's the one that most people in America, Mexico, or Greece, and all over, most people know their Western zodiac sign. Nothing wrong with that, dude. That's cool. You know that. Now, what you must know about that, though, is that this sign was defined by the zodiac being evenly divided up into 30 degrees. So it starts from the point of the spring equinox, and then you count 30 degrees from that point. The spring equinox will start at a certain point in the zodiac, and then you would count 30 degrees over. That would be one sign. Then you would count 30 degrees over again. That would be another sign. 30 degrees over again. That would be another sign. 30 degrees over again. And you do that in a circle. So what's going to happen is that eventually you're going to get 360 degrees broken down into 12 different signs. And like I said, that's good for measuring time and for accuracy, because you know it's even. So it's easier to measure time. However, when you get into wanting to know where these planets are, which actual zodiac sign a planet is in, that's not how you would divide it. Now, this is when you get into sidereal astrology. And in sidereal astrology, we deal, it's kind of called like fixed star astrology. Fixed, F-I-X-E-D. And in fixed star astrology, we map the zodiac based upon the different stars. And each zodiac sign has different stars associated with it, like alpha stars and beta stars. In each zodiac sign, I don't care what constellation you deal with, there's an alpha star or a star that's associated with that sign. And in fixed star astrology, we deal with the zodiac signs starting and ending predicated upon where these particular alpha and beta stars are at, and based upon the energy that they would resonate with in a particular area, or how much, or basically the particular area that these stars would dominate within the ecliptic or within the circle. So I'm not going to go through each particular fixed star and map the zodiac for you, because I'm going to do a separate video to really help you to understand what's going on, the difference between Western astrology and 13 signs astrology, and it'll be a longer video that goes more in depth. But I just kind of wanted to break that down. So in 13 signs astrology, what we're doing is we're using the sidereal zodiac, and we're breaking down each particular zodiac sign based upon the fixed stars. So the reason why we say that it's 13 signs is because we acknowledge the fact that Scorpio has its own set of fixed stars, but then Scorpio shares a constellation with this constellation called, or shares stars, or it kind of goes into another constellation, which is, or another group of stars, another type of energy, which is called a fucus. And see, a fucus is different from Scorpio. It's a totally different constellation, and it has different stars associated with it. So basically, this is how you come up, and the reason why we say that it's 13 signs is because we're dealing with every single star that's found on that ecliptic, and we're measuring it based upon the different areas of the zodiac that it will affect. So you have 13 different areas of the zodiac that these groups of stars that I'm telling you about affect. And this is based on the astronomical measurements that have been done. And this is also based upon a lot of knowledge that's been gained through the mystery schools and from studying sacred geometry and things of that level. So this is the reason why now you're hearing a lot about 13 signs astrology, and it's becoming a lot more popular during this day and time, is because of the fact that it's something that now, like I told you, the priests control how much information the public is going to have about astrology. It's always been like this, still like that, even to this day. And the priests and those particular people that rule the world, and they use astrology, they already know this, and those particular beings that rule the world, because they're, some of these particular beings that rule the world aren't necessarily human. Those particular beings that rule the world decided to go ahead and tell humans about the 13th sign on a mass level, because the 13th sign is nothing new, but they released it on the news and on the media. And that's what, people have to really understand, is that when it comes through the media like that, that's when they want the masses of the people to know about there's a shift and there's a new sign. So this happened in 2011. And that was no coincidence that they put that out in 2011, because that represented the shift, the new energy. See, people, they was getting caught up on 2012, but what people fail to realize is that the shift started when the movie 2012 came out, which was in 2010. That's when the shift really started. This new energy has begun, and it's still happening. The shift is still going on. So people got caught up on 2012 and talking about ain't nothing happening, hoopla and stuff. But 2012 was not about, it was never about that. It was never about something happening on one day. That's not what the ancients talked about when they talked about the beginning of no time. It was a cycle and seasons and energy that takes time to come in. So the priests, they were preparing the public for this knowledge about 13 signs astrology. So they put it out on the media and on the news, and everybody found out about it for a minute, and people woke up to it. It was like, oh, I'm a different sign. And of course, people didn't want to believe, so they went back to sleep, because that's how it is. Just like when they finally went ahead and told everybody that, you know what, everybody, the earth is actually round. And if you get on a boat and get on the ocean and get on this boat, you're going to end up going somewhere to another land. You're not going to just fall off into the ocean if you get on a boat. So the earth is round. And the people that told these groups of people that, the first generation to learn that, did not believe that. They didn't believe the earth was round. Actually, to a point where if you research it, people were literally murdered in some areas for teaching that, because that's how bad they don't want people to know this information. And that's just how people resist change. And the number 13 represents change. 13 is the number of change. It's the number of the universe. So we know in the universe, that's the only constant. That's the only thing we know for sure. When you wake up tomorrow, something's going to be different. A planet is going to move. Something's going to move in that universe every single day, every single hour. Things are changing in that universe. Things are moving, because that's the only constant. So 13 is the number of the universe. Man wasn't ready for that. So man had to go deal with the number 12 first. Man was put up under the doctrine of 12 and had to deal with 12. But now man is getting ready and getting initiated into the number 13. And it's going to take time. So that's what 13 Signs Astrology is about. We are here to set the record straight, to teach astrology as it, wholly and pure, holistically, to teach astrology, and not in parts, and teach you some of astrology because we have political ties to Western, or we have political ties to Vedic. I don't have political ties to anything. I mean, my thing is I'm passionate about astrology. I understand Western astrology, and I study Western astrology. I understand sidereal astrology, in the Vedic version of astrology, and I study that. I understand the Magi aspect of astrology, and I study that. I love Chinese astrology, and I study that. And what I do is I've studied all these different versions of astrology, and I found out they're all talking about the same thing. So that helps me to be a better interpreter when I do my readings. So I'm going to give you an example. So when we start getting into Gemini, I know people are like, Dad, you did a whole spill on astrology. Just bear with me. So now we're going to get into Gemini. Now, Gemini, let me kind of like break it down for you on an astrological level, what's going on with it. Gemini is the third sign of the Zodiac. Like I said, it starts on June the 22nd, and it goes up to July the 21st. And it's an air sign. So it's a very communicative sign. It's the sign of it's the sign of communication, actually. Because not only is it an air sign, but it's ruled by Mercury, the messenger, Tahuti, the throat chakra, the one that speaks and communicates and learns and thinks. And his or her existence is based upon communication and relating to people. but not really relating to people, but more so with communication and thinking. So a lot of Geminis, they communicate on different levels. Some of them are deep thinkers, and they communicate on more of a fourth dimensional level, and they're able to communicate telepathically. Some of them that are in tune with their higher self. But then you have the Geminis that are, the more mundane Gemini that's very smart, academically seasoned, able to take a subject and master it in no time. Now, Geminis, they're thinkers, and they love to learn, and they love to research, and they love to read books, but they have a problem with finishing the books that they read. That's the funny thing about Gemini. Like, it's really hard for Gemini to finish tasks because of the fact that it moves so fast. Mercury, which is Gemini's ruling planet, is one of the fastest moving planets or whatever, and it's the planet of thinking. So Geminis move fast, and they really have a problem with sustaining themselves. So they're not like Virgo. Virgo is also ruled by Mercury, but Virgos, they're a little bit more analytical. And Virgos are a little bit more disciplined when it comes to finishing a task, like a intellectual task. But Gemini, they're the kings and queens of short studies. Um, Very talkative, always have something to say, very entertaining, and they very much wear a mask. That's the funny thing about a Gemini. It's really hard to get to know a Gemini because they have many layers. You see many different layers of personalities. And this is because every Gemini has really, they say two personalities, but really that's not true. Every Gemini has three personalities because back in the day, Gemini was represented by the three monkeys. The three monkeys, not just two. So you have the reason why people get into Gemini being a dual sign and dealing with two is because you have two dominant stars that rule Gemini, which is Castor and Pollux. Castor and Pollux. Pollux. So Castor and Pollux were twins, and it's a lot of mythology around them. The story of Romulus and Remus goes back to Castor and Pollux, which actually goes back into understanding the Roman Empire. Really, when you get into the story of Romulus and Remus, this goes into understanding the Holy Roman Empire, which is a whole other doctrine because the Roman Empire was up under the energy of Gemini and the monkey, which is, I'll go into that another time. I may have to do a video maybe and talk about the Holy Roman Empire from an astrological point of view. But the dual aspect of Gemini comes from the fact that it has two dominant stars. Some constellations have more than two stars like dominating. Some constellations may have two alpha stars and two beta stars or something like that. But Gemini in particular has an alpha star and a beta star. So it's called a dual constellation. But really, Gemini is represented and depicted by three monkeys. And you've seen the picture with the monkey. One monkey's holding his eyes over another, putting his hands over another monkey's eyes. Another monkey's putting his hands over another monkey's mouth. And another monkey's putting his hands over another monkey's ears, because this represents the fact of see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. And this is how Geminis function. Geminis are very intelligent. They're very smart. However, Geminis, how can I say this? They're so intelligent and so smart that they don't really have a sense of, a lot of times they can kind of push the moral aspect to the side, the sense of morals and right and wrong and things like that. Their whole thing is they live in their head. So they're very intellectual. So if they can get away with a thing intellectually, if they can intellectually figure out a way to do a thing, they're going to do it. So this is why Gemini also represents the thief and robbers and murderers, because it's a dual sign. And though Gemini's smart, wise, and all of that, Gemini is not necessarily, is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is not necessarily a planet that is benevolent or malefic. It's not good or bad. Mercury is called a neutral planet. So Gemini is just as much capable as intellectualizing a way to rob you, to steal from you, to do something to kill you. Or they can flip it and intellectualize a way to come up with some new software program, or come up with some, to write some article in some journal that changes the minds of people in an inspiring and an enlightening way. So Gemini goes both ways. It's funny, they go both ways or whatever. It's a very multiple sign. Let's really call it a multiple sign, because it can really go into like 5 different personalities, like when you get into Gemini. So Geminis are deep. I myself, I like to share my energy from my natal chart with people. I have Venus in Gemini, so I understand Gemini. I attract a lot of Gemini women because I have Venus in Gemini. A lot of 13 signs Gemini women, I attract them or whatever. And so I realize, I know how the women are or whatever, and I realize that they're very intellectual. Very, like, you really can't get a Gemini woman to get interested in you unless you have not really a lot to talk about, but something interesting to talk about. Very intellectual, or whatever. So the air, all the air signs are. Your Aquariuses are very intellectual, as well as your Libras. But I would say Gemini is probably the domineering sign when it comes to just having an intellectual understanding and having a knowledge of so many different topics and subjects. Like those are your Gemini women. So now Geminis and Leos, they really get along. 'Cause I'm a Leo, so my Venus and my Sun really get along. So like when I track these Gemini women, I mean I really get along with them. And another reason why is because Gemini is represents the monkey, and in Chinese astrology, Ram Hotep is a monkey. So the monkey deals with those people that know the monks and the monkeys. See, they're playful too, and they're like kids and they're like children, but they're very smart. So a lot of times monkeys do this thing where they know how to play dumb, and Geminis know how to do it too. So they're so intellectual, so smart, they can play dumb and they'll laugh and joke with you, and be like you, like, oh, this person trusts me and they believe in me, not knowing that Gemini is so smart. They're in your head. They know what you're thinking next, and they may be planning to do something to you. You know what I'm saying? So that's why Gemini is the sign of the thief, the deceiver too, because they deal with deception, not liars. They can be liars, but Pisces, they do like a lot of lying, but Geminis are more so deceivers. And I'm going to do a video on lying versus deception, but there's a big difference. So you have liars, you have deceivers, and there's an art to deception. Lying is stupid. It creates a lot of negative karma, but there's an art to deception to where a lot of these big time powerful people have mastered this art of deception so much to the point where this is how they get out of karma. You hear about the Omni Lords and the darker people that play this game with karma and doing things that would normally cause them to have karmic debt, but they're able to get out of this karma because they mastered the art of deception. So this is something that Gemini is very much in tune with. A lot of con artists are Geminis. Just start studying this stuff. A lot of fast talking people are Geminis or whatever. So very smart, and that's just salesmen or Geminis. Like you start researching a lot of your salesmen are Geminis, business people, Geminis. A popular Gemini that I know for sure, that I was doing a lot of research on. I'm pretty sure he's a 13 signs Gemini. Is not Warren Buffett. Not Warren Buffett. It's the other guy, Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a Gemini. He's a Gemini, and you look at how he is. You know what I'm saying? He wears two faces. So he's a monkey. He mastered the mask. So the man behind the mask may be different than the mask that you see or whatever. So that's Gemini, and he got, you see he has this business empire going. So he's very intelligent and knows how to keep these things going because Gemini rules the air, so they are in tune. So that's going to do it for me. What else can I say about Gemini? Gemini is also the sign of Tahuti. I did want to talk about this. It's the sign of Tahuti. So this makes Gemini a magician. See, this is why they're so good. And Geminis are really intellectual magicians. That's really what they are. You have different type of magicians. There's emotional magicians. There are I guess you could say more psychic type of magicians. And then you have the intellectual magician. And Gemini is the more intellectual magician because Gemini, they use facts and data, and they can work magic with facts and data. Another good Gemini that I was researching is Greg Bratton. Really good teacher, one of my favorite teachers. I'm going to do a video on a book that he wrote actually, so I'll be talking more about him. But Greg Bratton, he's another Gemini. Dr. Malachi Z. York, the master teacher Malachi Z. York, he was a Gemini. And that's what I'm saying. These guys are very intellectual, master teachers. You can't get on them. They smart now. Just because they may be, they're the reason why they're good deceivers and a lot of them become lawyers and stuff like that is because they're smart. I mean, they are so intelligent. Like, I mean, I'm not just boasting or whatever. This is definitely the sign of intellect or whatever when you deal with Geminis, but they're kids though. So this is how they get over whatever. So Leos and Geminis are kids. These are both of the signs of the zodiac that have this playful, childlike nature or whatever. But still have the intellect of a 70-year-old woman or man. That's the sign of Gemini, the magician, the one who is great at magic, the one who is able to pick up on any topic, but not able to really, they're not going to stay around with you and nurture you. And, they're not cancers. Like they make really good friends. They'll talk to you on the phone and give you a really good conversation, but a lot of times they're not good at like being around a lot of times. They always got so much going on. The jack of all trades. They usually got 3 or 4 jobs. Always got something to do. So I could go on and on talking about Gemini. It's one of my favorite signs. But I'm going to go ahead and shut this video now. For more information, or if you would like to get your 13 signs natal reading, I ask you to visit the link below. And until we meet again, I'm going to leave you all in Namaste.